I'm George Frangeskides, Executive Chairman of Alba Mineral Resources, AIM listed with ticker code ALBA, presenting our latest and revised corporate presentation for Q4 2022, titled Unearthing Hidden Value from Previously Drilled or Mined Projects. This is our disclaimer. An overview about Alba. We're focused on extracting unexploited value from previously mined or drilled projects. We've got a unique portfolio of gold assets in North Wales, especially our Clogau St David's gold mine. We've got significant investments in other jurisdictions, and in particular, we are the majority shareholder of Greenrock Mining plc, which has some very strong assets in Greenland that we will cover. And our focus is on brownfield projects. Reason for that is to reduce execution risk and the time to production, and that's the case for Clogau, which was an ex-producing mine, and Amitsoq in southern Greenland, an ex-producing graphite mine. We're always on the lookout for significant assets that are complementary to our portfolio and that can add significant value and take the company forward. We've got a very strong team with huge experience in both mining and other relevant sectors, whether that's corporate advisory, finance, accounting. We've got a strong technical team led by Mark Austin, our COO, and as I say, a huge amount of combined experience. So we look to develop our existing assets and fast track them to production. We're not interested in just exploration. We're interested in getting into production. We support our investee companies, in particular Greenrock Mining, to grow their businesses, and that obviously has a significant value enhancing proposition for Alba and its shareholders. And as I say, we look for other complementary assets, and that's a constant process. Our project overview in terms of location, you can see our assets in the UK and Ireland, where we've got a base metals license, and then our cluster of projects through our majority shareholding in Greenrock Mining in Greenland, so our very strong Amitsoq graphite project in the far south, which is in the same latitude as far northern Scotland, and then a cluster of 3 projects in the north, including our ilmenite project, TBS. We start with Clogau St David's, which is 100% owned by Alba. It's the largest historic producer of gold in the UK. That diagram shows our licenses in blue and green and red. And we essentially cover the entire Llechfraith gold belt. It's a known geological formation, gold formation. It's produced all of the vast majority of the historical gold production of the UK has come from the Llechfraith goldfield. And we've been working at Clogau since about 2018, done a huge amount of drilling, a novel approach, if you like, to the project. With doing a huge amount of exploratory drilling, which hasn't been done before. And that has enabled us to define 2 significant targets for near-term development. We call the Lower Llechfraith level, where we've proven vein continuity of 122 meters below the existing workings. And the main Lode system extension, where we've had intercepts up to 60 meters below existing workings. We cover those 2 main targets in a bit more detail. You look here at our model, our 3D model of the underground workings at Clogau St David's, you'll see that in green there's been significant historical workings on several levels. That's the historical work pre our time and well before our time. Then if you look in the middle of the diagram, you'll see some shaded areas. Those are the targets that we've delineated from our drilling from surface and underground at the main lode. And as I say, significant extensions to what we call the 710 lode, the Jack Williams lode, JW lode there, and the new branch lode, the NBL lode. If you look to the left, that's our Lower Llechfraith, the red target there, 120 meters of depth that we have modelled beneath the deepest workings at the Lower Llechfraith area, which is in blue there. And that rivals, the size, the length of that model, that development, rivals the historical workings there on the top right, which you can see were 130 meters of total development. So a really significant couple of targets that we've identified through our drilling. Look at those in a little bit more detail. Lower Llechfraith, As I say, we've proven downward continuation of the Llechfraith structure up to 122 meters below number 4 level. On the right there, the diagrams, you can see our drill traces, or some of our drill traces, from surface down into the Llechfraith pay chute, which has enabled us to model that zone, significant zone. And if you look at the main lode extension, again, the drill traces there, top right, again, have enabled us to, obviously what we're doing here is drilling for structure, drilling for what we know is the gold-bearing quartz vein structures from the historical production that's been at Clogau. All of it has come from those quartz veins and the interplay with the Clogau shales. So we know the structure we're looking for. We've also had hits of gold. But the nature of this project is it must be drilled for structure, and then we essentially, when we've delineated a target such as these, we then go in and bulk sample and to put in development to access the targets in significant quantities for processing. So that's what we've done. And as I say, the Lower Llechfraith is really our focus. That's our primary in-mine target. This diagram shows how the levels below number 2 are flooded. Since 2021, first quarter of 2021, we've been seeking permission to dewater this section of the Lower Llechfraith. The idea is to dewater the Llechfraith shaft, what's called the main shaft there on the diagram, and the associated workings. That will enable us to go down, do safety works down the main shaft, put in ladderways that probably are all completely rotten now, get down to the number 4 level where there are recorded reports of visible gold in the past, in recent past, and then put in some new development for bulk sampling purposes. So we would then be sinking several winzers probably, which are just narrow shafts, 1.5 meters width by about 10 meters depth, to pull out 8 to 10 tons per winze and bulk sample that, process that material, see the gold content. That will then enable us to determine where to sink a main shaft, a new shaft, or an extension to the existing main shaft for development purposes to access that 120 meters of target zone that we have identified. So it's a very exciting prospect. We have just submitted late last month our revised habitat regulations assessment report to NRW and our permit applications to enable us to go in and do this dewatering and the follow-on work that will flow from that. And obviously we're waiting on response from NRW to that. We are confident that we have delineated and defined a very robust, secure and environmentally conscious plan to do this work, and supported by some expert consultants. So we are and remain confident that we will be able to dewater the Llechfraith shaft and get into this primary target as soon as we can. That's our secondary target, which we've covered, the main lode extension, and there's some significant plans there to get in and develop in order to access those targets, both at Jack Williams sub-levels, 710 lode, and developing the Tinny Cornell level as well. But that is a secondary target, and our focus is on Llechfraith. Once we have Llechfraith on a secure footing, we will look to move into the secondary target. It's also worth bearing in mind, we're always looking for cash flow opportunities. We want to be in production, we want revenues, and the Clogau waste tip is a really good example of that, where we think we will be able to develop the waste tip in order to get some significant near-term cash flow. We think there's about 32,000 tons at the waste tip. It's historical production and historical development. Some of it is waste rock, of course, from putting in development in the old mine. Some of it, though, is ore that has been sorted by visually, by hand in the past, and therefore where gold has been discarded in the past, and is also very much located in the fine fraction rather than the more coarser fractions in the waste tip. And that's been something that we've identified through our 2 phases of pitting and sampling work at the waste tip that we've conducted. So we've now got a pretty good handle on the waste tip, although it's a huge proposition, and we have discovered, grades of up to 11 grams per ton in our second phase, which is very, very strong, with average grades for the fine fractions of more than 2 grams per meter and grams per ton. So in a waste pit context, these are really solid grades, because obviously the gold is there. We're not having to extract it from the mine. It is at surface or within a reasonable distance of surface. So the idea is to go in and exploit the higher grade section that we've identified, about 4,000 tons of fines, process that material in our own processing plant, get near-term cash flow, and the benefit of that will be to obviously be able to then have a product that we can sell. The beauty of Welsh gold and why we want to be in this project and we want to secure future production is that it's always commanded a premium over the spot price of gold. So with that early cash flow from the waste tip, we would want to develop jewellery, high-end jewellery with a luxury brand potentially, producing and selling also gold coins and rounds, or rounds as they're called, or gold bars for investment purposes. And we've seen others, including Scott Gold, do this very successfully and secure a premium on the price of gold that they are selling, or the products in which they sell the gold. So we feel that Welsh gold is also a very strong proposition, a unique proposition, and we will be the only producers and sellers of new Welsh gold. So the waste tip is subject to planning, exploitation of the waste tip. We're in the pre-application inquiries phase, and then once we have feedback from that phase, we will then look to apply for a planning application and planning permission. That is a process that we are already working on, in fact. So we're very keen to get that application in as soon as possible. Gold price is still very strong. Might have dipped a little bit recently, but since mid-2020, it's really sitting at multi-year highs. Since the early 2010s, really, it hasn't been as high as that. So we're still looking at a very strong proposition being in gold. So as I said, next steps for Clogau, dewatering and rehabilitation of the main shaft, permitting being in process, commercialisation of the waste tip, again, permitting being worked on as we speak, development works to open up those other priority target zones to follow that, and then obviously the economic assessments, the pre-feasibility studies and the like, in order to underpin a submission to open the mine for full-scale commercial production. We're always in talks and discussions about offtake. We'll be looking to progress those discussions as well and upgrade our processing facilities before we start commercial production. Llechfraith Gold Exploration Project. I mean, we talk a lot about Clogau, but there is a huge potential across the rest of the Llechfraith gold belt. We own that, as I say, the rights to that entire gold belt runs to 20-30 kilometers long. We have delineated through our own work over time some really, really strong targets and gold prospects. And this is a gold field that's got 300 historical workings, 11 past producing gold mines, including Clogau. So there are huge targets there which have been largely untouched over time, which we intend to continue to work on and develop. These are just some of the examples of those targets over the Llechfraith gold belt. And there is also the Gwynfynydd gold mine, which is the second largest producer of gold in UK's history. It's also under license exclusively to the Alba Group. And as soon as we have Clogau on a secure footing, that is our focus and has always been our focus, then we will look in a more concerted way about getting into exploration development work at Gwynfynydd. A very key part of our portfolio and our strategy is supporting our 54% owned or 54% stake in GreenRock Mining plc. GreenRock Mining is an AIM-listed company, ticker code GROC, which we spun out of Alba late 2021. The idea being to set up a Greenland-focused vehicle in critical minerals. Critical minerals are obviously a key strategic focus for US and EU and UK in terms of securing non-conflict, non-Chinese, non-Russian, etc. supply of raw materials and critical minerals, such as to support the energy transition, electric vehicles, solar power, and the like. And GreenRock's in a strong place to do that because it has a portfolio of high-grade projects in a very mining-friendly jurisdiction of Greenland and positioned for significant growth, where its graphite and titanium are on the list of both the EU and US as critical minerals, with huge demand forecast for graphite, 2,500% forecast growth by 2040, and that's primarily and predominantly due to the EV sector. GreenRock has got a board that's very strong, a huge amount of experience in Greenland specifically, in geology, in finding and developing very big and world-class assets. We can talk about Amitsoq in particular. That is really shaping up to be the flagship project for GreenRock mining. It's a brownfield site like Clogau. It was a former mine. You can see there some pictures from underground. So it's got extensive underground development with an open cut, underground drives, 3 entrances. In fact, this year we collected 700 kilo bulk sample. You can see that being collected on the right there, underground from, what is clearly very high grade ore there on the rock face and accessible that easily. It might have been mined a little bit 100 years ago, but only for about 6,000 tons, we think. There is a huge amount of graphite, clearly, still in the mine and in the extensions that we have identified through our drilling. Why is Amitsoq such a strong proposition? Well, it starts with its grade. Our resource grade is 19.75% average. That is the second largest, highest grade in the world of any development project, graphite development project that we know of globally. Almost all the other projects are significantly lower grade. That's a very good start. But graphite isn't just about grade, it's about the actual components, the constituent parts of the graphite, how it performs, and whether it is, in our case, suitable for that electric vehicle industry, for the anode material in a lithium-ion battery. And in our case, all the test work we've done to date has indicated that it is. That we've only just finished and announced in November, or a few days ago, in fact, spheronization tests, which have shown that Amitsoq graphite can produce spherical graphite, which is what you need as the anode material in a lithium-ion battery, and high-quality spherical graphite at that. So we are very well set at present for being a future producer of that product into the gigafactories, car manufacturers, and the electric vehicle sector generally. Done a lot of drilling at Amitsoq the last couple of years. You can see a model there of how big we see the lower graphite level in red and the upper graphite layer in orange developing there. We have a resource of 8 million tons, just shy of 20%. Gives us 1.6 million tons of contained graphite. It's already very significant. But our drilling this year, we're expecting from that a significant bump up in our resource, not only tons, but also categorization, moving more of our graphite into the measured and indicated. But we wait to see the results of that, and the assays from the drill core is ongoing. So once we have that, we'll be working and finalizing the resource. So it's a world-class district. It's not just Amitsoq that we're sitting on, a bit like Clogau with its Llechfraith gold belt. We're looking here at a graphite district that we are defining in southern Greenland of huge potential, essentially world-class. It's not just Amitsoq, as I say. We've defined and identified ourselves a new graphite discovery at Kallak on the mainland with very high-grade graphite. We haven't even drilled it yet, but we know there's a lot of graphite there. We can tell that from all the work we've done on the surface with our sampling and mapping programs. But we do want to go and drill Kallak at some point. There are potential for other discoveries outside of Amitsoq Island and Kallak. So the yellow zone there is a new license we've taken out. Again, we've sampled that this year and we found extremely high grades, up to 32% graphite, over about 800 meters at the Nautilic Island, just one of the targets. So really shaping up to be a potentially world-class graphite zone and district. So Amitsoq's roadmap to production is we're into the EIA and SIA work, which is a precursor to putting in a mining application. We'd then be looking to do our pre-feasibility next year, definitive feasibility in 25, start construction, and finish construction in 26 with production in the early part of 27. The importance of getting on with it, well, actually, the graphite market is looking to be very strong for the next 10, 20 years. All the projections are extremely strong for graphite for reasons that we've been through about the EV sector. If you look at the diagram on the right, you'll see the European gigafactories that are either in production and construction or in the plans, in the works. There are 21 currently in production or construction. There's a further 19 planned for opening in 25, 30. And that will create a huge demand for graphite in Europe, and the actual production that there is in Europe is pretty small. The anticipated European production, and this includes our project, by 2030 would only be about 300,000 tons per annum, against a potential demand from European gigafactories of over 2 million tons per annum. So our graphite will certainly be very highly sought after, not only because of its quality, but also its location. We're only 4 to 5 days shipping from UK and Europe. Whereas if European gigafactories want to secure graphite from further afield, they have to go to places like East Africa, 30 days shipping, China, even longer. So, and the Chinese will start to hold on to more and more of their anode material, their graphite, for their own huge demand that is accelerating in their local EV sector. And the Europeans will have to look elsewhere. So we are very well set at Amitsoq for supplying either the EU, UK, or US, or more than one of those markets in the future. TBS is a very strong project up in northern Greenland. It's next to the Dundas project, which is has got a mining permit held by Blue Jay Mining. We're next to that project. We have very similar mineralization. We've got a smaller resource, but we've drilled it in 2021, and we're awaiting an update on our resource there. We have 90 million tons at 8.9%. We're looking at upgrading our categorization of classification of resource there. So that is, again, a strong project and a project in critical minerals. So we move on to Melville Bay. That's the third project within Green Rock Mining. Again, it's got a resource which we benefit from. We know that it can produce high-grade magnetite concentrate. We know there's potential for a lot more tonnage there, and we are currently evaluating the next steps for Melville Bay for next year. In terms of our ESG policies, on the environmental front, we comply, of course, with all applicable environmental ecological laws, regulations. We closely collaborate and work with all the competent regulators on that front. We've shown that in North Wales, and we do that and take that very seriously in Greenland also. On the social front, we engage with stakeholders. We've done that in North Wales. We've had open days, community days. We talk to the local community, landowners and others. And we've done the same in Greenland, where we've talked to local communities, municipalities. And it's very important that we do that, explain what we're doing and where we're trying to get to and what the benefits are for the local community. We provided work for local workers. We've provided significant contracts for local contractors in Wales and Ireland and Greenland over time, and training. And on the governance front, we are, of course, subject to very stringent regulations, and we're supported in that in all the countries in which we operate by our NOMAD, our AIM NOMAD, our auditors, our legal advisors, and our other professional advisors, to ensure that we have a strong governance framework and ensure compliance at all levels. So the value catalyst, just to finish up, we're looking at near-term production opportunities in Wales. We are moving forward with our plans to dewater the Llechfraith shaft. We're waiting on those permits, and then we'll be into that key target. We're looking at the waste tip and seeking to get planning application in to exploit the waste tip and get near-term production at premium prices for Welsh gold. Got significant multiple exploration and development programs underway and planned elsewhere. We're always looking at value-adding acquisitions, and we're in the right markets. We're talking about huge demand for the supply of non-Chinese, non-conflict jurisdiction critical minerals, and we're in gold, and that is an important inflation hedge in the current global markets. So that's Alba, a snapshot of our progress and where we intend to take our projects in the coming months. I hope this has been interesting. If you have any questions, please do email us at info@albamineralresources.com. Thank you very much.